After blowing a 3-1 lead to the Denver Nuggets in the bubble, and there reportedly being a rift between Rudy Gobert and Donovan Mitchell, the Utah Jazz took the league by storm as to what was a very dominant season. They had the best record in the league, they had the best home record in the league, a top 5 offense and a top 5 defense, and had the best net rating in the entire league. Not only that, they had the Defensive Player of the Year, the Sixth Man of the Year, and a player in Joe Ingles who was well deserving of that award as well. However, despite advancing past the Memphis Grizzlies, the Utah Jazz were down by the LA Clippers despite not having Kawhi in games 5 and 6. What ensued was the never-ending debate of Gobert's playoff defensive impact and the ultimate question as to whether this Utah team has reached its peak. But in this video, we'll go over why the Utah Jazz are still a formidable threat in the Western Conference and address what needs to happen for them to reach the mountaintop. With that being said, be sure to leave a like on the video, as each like makes a massive difference for the channel. And if you end up enjoying the video, then feel free to subscribe to the channel. So, will the Utah Jazz be an elite team in the regular season? If healthy, absolutely. The core of last year's team is back, so there's no reason to believe that they won't be an elite defensive team and a great offensive team as well. They're not relocating out of Salt Lake City anytime soon, so their strong home court advantage that they've had over the years should hold strong for 2022 as well. Additionally, the Jazz added Rudy Gay, Hassan Whiteside, Jared Butler, and Eric Paschall to what was already a deep squad. But that's the thing. We already know that the Jazz are a deep team that can secure a top 4 seed in the Western Conference. But even with the team that seems to have all the right pieces, people still reasonably question this team's playoff ceiling. One of the most prominent critiques of the Utah Jazz is Rudy Gobert's defensive utility in the playoffs, which supposedly dropped since teams stretch him out to the perimeter. But if you look at the numbers, the Jazz's defense in the 2021 postseason actually fell off a cliff when Gobert was off the floor. Their defensive rating with him on the floor was 118.8, but their defensive rating with him off the floor was 130.3. That's a whopping 11.5 difference. People will also cite that Gobert indeed was minus 24 in that Game 6 collapse against the Clippers. Thus, the narrative of him having diminished defensive impact is sustained. And yes, Gobert is far from the best at closing out to the 3-point line, and teams actually do go small to exploit this. But as we all know, plus-minus numbers in a single game requires context. Defensively, the Jazz's scheme is for Rudy Gobert to mask the defensive deficiencies of the team by protecting the paint. However, when a team like the Clippers goes small, Gobert is indeed taken further away from the rim, which leaves greater responsibility for those at the perimeter. But the rotations on defense as a team were abysmal when the Clippers went small, which is a huge no-no if you're going up against the best 3-point shooting team in the entire league. This caused many scenarios in which Gobert was stuck between guarding 2 players and had to pick his poison because of a botched defensive assignment from a teammate. However, what I will say about Gobert is that his lack of a full-fledged offensive game definitely limits the Jazz's ceiling. I'm definitely not saying that he has to be Hakeem Olajuwon or anything, but being able to punish teams for going small in the post would do favors for this Jazz team. If he did have a post game and some further playmaking ability, teams would have to help on mismatches, and when they do collapse on Gobert, he could just easily kick it out to the plethora of snipers that the Jazz already have. It's also important to note that a playmaker in Mike Conley missing 5 of the 6 games in that Clippers series definitely hurt Gobert's game as well. But moving on from Gobert, another prominent critique was that the Jazz have lacked the superstar performer to take them over the hump. But the thing is, Donovan Mitchell has played at an extremely high level over the past 2 postseasons. In the 2020 postseason, albeit just a 7-game sample size, Donovan Mitchell averaged 36 points, 5 rebounds, and 5 assists on 53% from the field, 52% from 3, and 95% from the free throw line. And in the 2021 postseason, a 10-game sample size, Mitchell averaged 32 points, 4 rebounds, and 6 assists on 45% from the field, 44% from 3, and 83% from the free throw line. Not saying that Mitchell could have stretched that elite play to over the course of 16 plus games in a singular postseason, as that would be difficult for literally any player. but citing the lack of a superstar performer as to why the Jazz have slumped in the postseason isn't the most accurate depiction of their situation. So, how do the Jazz actually improve upon their title chances with relatively the same core from last year? Well, good health is a start, because the Clippers series might have played out differently if Mike Conley was healthy and if Donovan Mitchell hadn't been hampered by that ankle injury. Secondly, the Jazz have to improve upon their perimeter defense if they want to make it further in the Western Conference. Of course, their personnel hasn't changed much from last season, but being unable to stay in front of your man and expecting Gobert to man the paint and close out the perimeter isn't feasible. And on that front, Donovan Mitchell and Mike Conley just being healthy will obviously help as well. At the end of the day, the Jazz's season isn't going to be judged by the regular season, as I doubt anyone would be surprised if they got the #1 seed. They're still one of the deepest rosters in the league, they're still one of the best shooting teams in the league, and they're still going to be an elite defensive team. However, their season will be judged by their playoff performance. If they can shore up their perimeter defense and stay healthy, they're right up there with the elite teams across the entire league. But if they can't, then we're going to be having the exact same conversation that we had last year. That's it for the video, and I really appreciate it if you guys made it this far into it. If you haven't already, be sure to leave a like, as each like helps boost the video in the algorithm, and feel free to subscribe to the channel for more content like this. Thank you guys so much for watching, hope you enjoy the rest of your day, and hope to see you guys in the next one. Stay tuned.